Have you ever heard a guitar riff so heavy it felt like it was actually moving the air in the room? A sound that's less about speed and more about this deep, physical groove? Well, that's the world of stoner rock. It's a whole genre built on a vibe that you can pretty much sum up in 3 words: low and slow. So let's get into it and break down what makes this sound so incredibly heavy. So, at its core, stoner rock is this amazing fusion. You've got the crushing weight of doom metal on one side, and on the other, the mind-bending textures of psychedelic rock. But here's the key thing. It's not really about being a technical virtuoso. It's all about creating a vibe. Seriously, this isn't just music you listen to. It's designed to be a physical sensation, something you feel just as much as you hear. All right, so here's the roadmap for today. We're going to start by tracing the riff all the way back to its 70s origins, then jump to how the California desert basically became its home. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty and deconstruct the groove, clear up some confusion with its psychedelic cousin, and finally take a look at why this kind of riff still has so much power today. Okay, so to really get stoner rock, we have to rewind the clock. The sound we know and love didn't just pop up in the 90s out of nowhere. No way. Its DNA was being written decades earlier by a few trailblazing bands who just decided that rock and roll needed to be heavier, like way heavier. It kind of started with bands like Blue Cheer back in '68, who just unleashed this fuzzed-out sonic earthquake on the world. Then you had these other groups like Sir Lord Baltimore, who brought this kind of wild, psychedelically damaged energy to their riffs. But the real game changer, the template everyone would end up following, was perfected in 1971 by Black Sabbath. People call Master of Reality the holy grail for this sound, and man, for good reason. This is the album where guitarist Tony Iommi made a choice that changed everything. He down-tuned his guitar. It seems so simple now, but that single act created this thicker, darker, and heavier tone that would become the absolute cornerstone of the genre. That was it. That was the birth of the truly monolithic riff. Okay, let's hit the fast-forward button to the 90s. So the blueprint was there from the 70s, but the sound was really raised in this very specific, very harsh place, the California desert. And this isn't just some cool backdrop to the story. The geography itself literally became part of the music. Just try to picture it. You're in a young band. You're in the middle of nowhere. It is hot, you're totally isolated, and there are 0 clubs to play in. So what do? You don't quit. You drag your amps out into the vast open desert and you just make your own scene from scratch. And that is exactly how the legendary generator parties started. Bands, especially Caius, would literally haul all their equipment out into the dunes, hook everything up to gas-powered generators, and just jam. But think about it. What happens to sound when you're in a place with no walls, no ceiling, nothing for it to bounce off of? Well, that changes everything. And this quote from Brant Vork of Caius nails it. He basically explains that a normal rock sound just vanished into thin air out there. It sounded weak, it sounded thin, so to compensate, they had to invent a sound with this massive, bass-heavy, fat bottom end. It wasn't a choice, really. It was a sound born out of pure necessity. And this record, this is the moment it all crystallized. Caius's album Blues for the Red Sun managed to capture that desert-forged sound and unleash it on the whole world. This thing wasn't just an album. It was a mission statement. It was the cult masterpiece that officially kicked off the stoner rock movement as we know it. So, we've gone from Black Sabbath all the way to the California desert. But what's actually going on inside that sound? What are the mechanics? How can you, as a listener, pick out its key ingredients? Let's pop the hood and deconstruct this groove so you know exactly what to listen for. First things first, let's talk about speed, or lack of it. As you can see here, your standard rock song is humming along at a pretty good clip. But stoner rock, it slams on the brakes, dropping down to between 60 and 90 beats per minute. This isn't just about being lazy or slow for the sake of it. It creates all this space between the notes, which lets the distortion just bloom and gives every part of the riff a feeling of pure, massive weight. Right, so the secret to that heavy feeling is part music theory, part straight-up physics. When you tune guitars and basses way, way down, the strings get looser and they produce these lower frequencies with longer wavelengths. This creates a literal rumble, a subterranean vibe you can actually feel in your chest. Then on top of that, you get a drummer who drags the beat, playing just a little bit behind the rhythm, and that creates this incredible, hypnotic push and pull feeling. And here is the melodic secret sauce. The riffs often use what you could call the 4 intervals of doom. These are just specific pairs of notes that in traditional music are supposed to sound dissonant, kind of clashing or unstable. But in stoner rock, that little bit of ugly, that unresolved tension, that's the whole point. It's what gives the riff its gritty, almost evil-sounding character.
Okay, this is a big one. It's a super common point of confusion. Stoner rock definitely grew out of psychedelic rock, but they are not the same thing. So let's draw a really clear line in the sand between these two sonic cousins, shall we?
It really all comes down to their core philosophy. What's the goal? The goal of stoner rock is to create physical weight, something heavy that grounds you. Psychedelic rock, on the other hand, is reaching for an ethereal texture, something light that makes you float. You could say one is rooted in the body, and the other is all about the mind.
So let's really break it down. Where psychedelic rock is focused on atmosphere and cool studio tricks, stoner rock is all about the riff and its physical impact. In psych rock, a fuzzy guitar might be used as an accent, right? In stoner rock, that fuzz is the entire foundation of the sound, and the structure is totally different too. Psych music can be really exploratory, going on a journey, while stoner rock is all about being cyclical and repetitive, locking you into this hypnotic, powerful trance. Now that sound that was forged out there in the heat of the California desert, it didn't stay there. Like spores carried on the wind, that monolithic riff spread all over the globe, and it evolved and adapted everywhere it landed. I mean, after Caius broke up, you had Queens of the Stone Age take elements of that sound straight to mainstream radio. At the same time, this huge scene was just exploding in Europe. You got Swedish bands like Truck Fighters, who perfected this high-energy version of the sound, and German bands like Color Haze, who started mixing in the hypnotic influence of krautrock. And today, you've got bands like Elder, who are pushing the boundaries into really complex progressive territory. Some people are even calling it stoner prog. Ultimately, I think this quote just captures the whole appeal of the genre. It's not just a collection of songs. It's a destination. It's this immersive world that's built entirely out of heavy, hypnotic, unforgettable riffs. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. In our modern world, which is so full of fast-paced, disposable digital trends, what is it about a simple, heavy, low and slow riff that makes it so incredibly timeless, so resilient? Maybe, just maybe, it's a reminder that some things don't need to be complicated to be incredibly powerful.